People love to see us working, and I'm talking about work. You know, these people that do 8 hours, well, what our boys used to do is unbelievable. 4 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock next morning, and then carry on again the next day. Me and my brother used to push her out every day, and she was about 10 ton. And we were here one morning, and these 12 athletes come along the front. They said, "Stand back, fishermen, we'll push the boat out for you." I said, "Lovely." They started pushing and shoving and farting and blowing. Couldn't move her. I said, "You athletes stand back, let us old buggers get a go." We pushed her out in 2 seconds.
Stan Bagwell loves to tell stories of his days fishing off the beach in Sidmouth in East Devon. He was born in the 30s, at a time when Sidmouth was still part working fishing village, part the genteel Regency resort it's known for today. You might spot Stan out on Port Royal, where he used to push his boats off the beach, motoring along the seafront, or greeting friends at the Connaught Gardens,
Bye.
overlooking the sea he loves. Inspired by Stan's tales, with the help of his family, his wife Mary, his daughter Kay, his grandson Ryan, and others who work or play on the water, this is a story of our relationship with the sea. Stan's fishing career began about 2 miles down the coast west of Sidmouth at Ladram Bay. His father, Bob Bagwell, used to row trippers in the pleasure boats around the famous Red Stacks. Motorboats are still available for hire. Stan and his dad were working this same spot over 70 years ago.
We used to get the sea foam off the beach at Ladram to take people out mackerel fishing and trips around the bay and trips to Sidmouth. Oh, we used to have about 20 rowing boats, deck chairs and the sea foam, but we never had our own boat.
After the punters had gone, Bob, his brothers and friends, used the sea foam to go fishing, and young Stan went with them. One of Stan's favourite stories took place when he was only 8 or 9, revealing just how determined he was to become a fisherman.
2 of my dad's pots come ashore in Ladram, and I picked them up. I said, "If you repair this one, Dad, can I use it?" He said, "Yeah, of course." So when we fixed the pots, we put these 2 pots out on the corner of Ladram. Anyway, next morning, eager as Harry I was, I got down and rowed out to these pots and hauled them. And I had 2 lobsters in one. Of course, my hands went in to pick them up, and they ate out of my hands. The pain was unbelievable. He did tell me, but I didn't take notice. Eager Harry. And then another day, I went out and hauled the pot on my own. Anyway, when I took it in, it was undersized, see? So I showed Dad, he said, "You can't keep that one, it's too small." So I thought, well, I ain't going to bloody throw it away. So I put the lobster in, and of course, my weight was carrying me over, and I went over the side down to the seabed. And when I come up, the boat was from down there where those people are. And I had to swim over to it to get him back in. And when I got back in to Ladram, Uncle Arthur and Peter Lee, and they said, "By God, it's been raining out there." And then I said, "Yeah, 20 foot down." They're all fishermen, yeah. There was Dad, Tom, Arthur, Oliver until he got killed in Norway. They were all fishing. And my granddad, Bob Bagwell.
Stan's granddad had one of the fishing sheds in the Port Royal area at the eastern end of the beach. To the east of them, the Richards and Harris families had their pitches. In the 19th century, stretching all along the beachfront west towards Jacob's Ladder, around 20 fishing families had their own hard-won territories. These pitches were passed down from father to son, with old Sidmouth names like Bartlett and Woolley. They were fiercely guarded because this was their chance to scrape a living, catching mackerel in the summer and shaking herring from their nets in the winter. A stylised picture from 1815, painted like an advert to attract London gentry, shows the fishing village developing as a resort. The beachfront would have been jam-packed with fishing boats and nets, but they are wiped clean. What is now the Bedford Hotel stands proudly in the centre. The townsfolk feared the noise and the smell of fish would put off the genteel visitors, but the artist painted a few fishing boats in the eastern area of the town to add some character. The attraction was the famous red cliffs and the medicinal benefits of bathing in the sea. Sidmouth was less expensive than posh spa towns like Bath, and it was the more adventurous travellers who bravely came to take the waters in Sidmouth. Gradually, the canniest fishermen realised they could make money from the tourists and introduced bathing machines, charging visitors to be wheeled into the sea. But there was ongoing conflict between fishermen and gentry. In rough weather, they needed to drag their boats to safety right up the beach, exactly where the visitors liked to promenade. One day in 1906, a young writer suffering from a nervous breakdown arrived on the beach at Sidmouth. Stephen Reynolds was taken in by Bob Woolley's family in their tiny cottage. Living with this down-to-earth fishing family probably saved Stephen's life. He learnt to fish and overcame writer's block, writing about the family he came to love in A Poor Man's House. Stephen became a voice for local fishermen and a government fishing inspector. Amazingly, from his offices at Hope Cottage, now the Sidmouth Museum, he represented inshore fishermen across the whole of the southwest. When the Woolley's cottage was destroyed, Stephen took the family into Hope Cottage, repaying his debt to the fishermen who'd saved his sanity. The First World War stole many fishing boats and men. Stephen probably commissioned this film of herring fishermen to show how important it was to keep some men fishing. Fish, the so-called free food, was never rationed. But if there was a big catch all along the coast, the prices dropped to rock bottom. The merchants haggled over prices, and the fishermen got very little for all their hard work. Rather than get a few pennies for it, Stan's granddad, and years later his father, gave their catch to the poor families in East Town. Stan's dad was too ill to fight in World War II, but the tiny sea foam played her part. In 1940 she headed across the Channel to Dunkirk to rescue our stranded soldiers. A few years later, Stan's father was offered the chance to buy her.
My dad was offered Ladram Bay and all the boats and everything that went with it for £300. Well, back in those days it was a fortune, and my dad never had none, so he couldn't do it.
It struck young Stan that his dad was a fisherman without a boat, and it made the schoolboy even more determined to buy his own.
The only way I could do it was by working, doing odd jobs, and I used to be trapping and poaching, and up over Peak Hill I used to trap all the cliffs. I used to be a caddy up on the golf course, and I used to earn money from there, and Mum used to have most of it, and I used to have a little bit to save. That's how I got my first boat. I had more water in my boat than I did in the sea. I thought I was going to Brixham when I left school to go on the trawlers, see?
But although Stan's dream was to become a trawlerman, his mother Martha told him sternly, "Your dad spent a life at sea and never saved a penny from it." So she told him to work as a builder.
I just had it in me. There's no two ways about it. I had to go to sea. I used to be on the buildings by day and at sea all night. I used to be rowing to start with. We never had no outboard or nothing. From Sidmouth Beach down to Budley, then all my nets, and then all my pots from there right up through Ladram, Sandy Cove, Pickett, right up to Jet Rocks. I used to get some lovely lobsters out here, like, just straight out here.
A few years later, Stan had his third boat, the Rosalind, built just before he met the woman who, in his own words, saved his life many times, Mary.
I first met Stan down here on the beach at the eastern side. I was 16. I was a bit fed up. My best friend had gone out with her boyfriend, so I decided to walk across the front. Stan had just come in from the sea and he just followed me walking up alongside the river. I stopped and watched the fish in the river, the trout, and he followed me. And then we went for a walk up Salcombe Hill along the coast path. And that was sort of the beginning of our relationship. My mother was very protective, but she was a very quiet, mild sort of person. And I know she was always a bit worried about me going out with Stan because he came from Manston, and of course it was always considered to be a bit of a rough area. But it was where the locals were. It was where a lot of the people from Eastern Town had been moved to Manston Avenue when they redeveloped it and knocked all the cottages down. So it was a real community up there, which I wasn't used to.
Stan wasn't always the romantic, but there was one event which helped Mary make up her mind.
I joined the sailing club. I was just a crew member. I'd managed to get a sail with John Luxton, and we were out sailing out here, coming across, and the boat capsized, and I came up under the sail, and it was just out here. It was a lovely day, just like this, just like today. And Stan came out and rescued me. I didn't need rescuing at all. I was quite happy. I could swim. It was very romantic.
Well, Mary come up to me and said to me, "Will you marry me?"
No, come on, stop messing around.
It's a long time ago.
We were walking down Peak Hill and we sat on the bench halfway down, and it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful day. And then he said, "I want to marry you." He said, "And I'm going to marry you." So he didn't ask me, he never asked me to marry him. It was always an assumption that he would marry me. He told me.
Well, that's the sort of bloke I was then. But I'm a bit different now. I wanted her to marry me, yeah. I just knew it. She was the only one I ever wanted. And I still only want her.
Mary's mother asked them to wait 3 years. Then Mary found herself married to a builder who'd become a full-time fisherman and grown a beard.
I didn't have a clue about the fishing way of life, not a clue.
There was no weekends off, and we used to start anywhere between 4 and 6 in the morning and go right through the day doing lobster potting, netting, and to earn money for carrying on. We used to catch bass and mullet. Then we used to have nets along the shore for plaice and sole.
I didn't understand the fluctuations in the fishing. I didn't understand the hardships. I didn't understand the territorial attitude of the fishermen. So it was quite a big learning curve.
As well as fishing all hours, Stan was driving as far afield as Taunton to sell his catch. So they decided to start their own fishmongers on the Ham.
Well, this is where we started selling fish. It was just storage space for nets and pots, and then it gradually grew.
I took the fence down, dug out the foundations, or me and my brother did, and Stan French, and my dad, and built the shop.
I watched what Stan was doing and I thought, well, I can do that, that's not a problem. I had to learn how to fillet fish, I had to learn how to dress a crab, and really the dressing of the crab was a bit of a learning curve. Ian was the firstborn. Lynn came along quite soon afterwards, and she would take the lead, get Ian into trouble, and then it wasn't long before I had Kay afterwards as well. So I had 3 small children under 4. It was pretty tough going sometimes, but we managed. We got there. We were always very positive about what we were doing. We were always in the water. They was always out on the beach. I mean, I worried about them, but I didn't worry about them to that extent because, I knew they were learning all the time. But it was a good playground for them.
Stan, like the fishermen before him, learned there was often more money to be made taking trippers out rather than fishing.
Stan, when he first started tripping, had to set up at the Bedford steps. He couldn't trip from the York steps because all the older guys were well established and they weren't going to have another new guy going in and pinching all their trade. Stan's brother Graham was always beside him. He was always at sea. He was always helping Stan, whatever he was doing. They did all the fishing together. They did potting, they did mackerel seining, they did tripping together. Oh, Stan had a passion for his boats. He loved his boats. He couldn't wait to get a bigger boat because that meant he could do more fishing. And it was all a drive to earn more money so that he wouldn't have to go back through to the poverty that his parents endured. Stan was always hungry, and his biggest joy was to go home and be able to put food on the table.
True to his get-up-and-go character, Stan was always keen to try new fishing methods. He was the first to use a mechanised winch on the beach and the first to try whelking.
Now, Ernie Lane said to me, if you want to earn a good living, make up the pots and go whelking. So I did, and I told my brother about it, and we used to bring in 2 ton of whelks a day. But we had to catch them, boil them, and pick them ready for people to eat.
The family's favourite boat was the famous Martha D.
She was in lovely shape. She was 25 foot long. She had a 10-foot 10 beam. She had a 4-cylinder engine, diesel, and she was the most wonderful boat I've ever had. Martha D is after my mother.
She was very heavy to work, and she'd be a bit stubborn some mornings. They wouldn't be able to get her off the beach. She'd sort of dig her heels in and not go. The Martha D became quite famous. People would come and watch her come in because she was such a beautiful boat. She was very special to Stan, very special to the family. She was on loads of postcards and photographs of her all around the world.
As the children grew up, it was natural to be out on a boat with their father or around their mother in the shop. With the sea in their veins, they were gradually drawn into the family business.
I think Lynn would have gone fishing if she'd have been allowed to go out on the boats, but Stan didn't want her out on the boats. Her love was horses. Lynn decided that she wanted to work with horses, and of course, Lynn being Lynn, she decided she was going to be a farrier. Ian always knew that he would go fishing, because he wasn't an academic. And when he was little and learning to read, all he wanted to read was books about fishing. He went down to Brixham to learn more about the fishing when he was about 16, and he learned his basics, really, from one of the skippers down there. It was a bit of a love-hate relationship for him because he used to get seasick as well. When he came back, he decided he was going to take his skipper's ticket, and he passed his skipper's ticket just before his 21st birthday. He was the youngest skipper in the country at the time. By that time, he'd met his wife, Debbie, on the beach at Sidmouth, and she helped him. Kay was sort of drifted into the shop, but she said if she was going to do it, she was going to do it properly.
I suppose I've always been around the fish shop and always in and out, and then obviously when I was old enough I learnt to fillet. Mum taught me to fillet. Dad didn't have any patience, so Mum taught me everything I know, really. I decided that when I was old enough I wanted to prove to myself and to the family, I just wanted to prove that I was as good as the rest of the country, so that's why I did the competitions. One of the things we had to do was pocket a lemon sole. You'd literally take the bone out. At the end of it, they fill it up with water to see if there's any holes in it. There you go.
Kay proved it. She was National Ladies Champion 3 times in a row. With mother and daughter working together in the shop and Ian taking over the Esther Colleen in Brixham, Mary remembers life as frantically busy, with little time for holidays. Yet occasionally they found time to do things as a family, even if it was still fishing.
It was Christmas 82. It was about the time Ian took over running the Esther Colleen. Stan had got all the wreck nets set up. We'd learned how to fish with set the nets with the rings on them as weights.
Well, it's a skilled job. You've got to get the nets so close to the wreck, even with the tide and the wind against you. If you don't get it in the right place, you won't get anything. Marvellous day it was. Lovely lot of fish too. Lovely lot of pollock, ling, cod, and odd bass, I think it was.
On another memorable day, Ian, who like his father was always trying new fishing methods, brought the Esther Colleen daringly close to the beach at Sidmouth.
Ian knew that the sprats were in tight. He said, I know the beach, I'm going right in. And they actually towed across the beach, and all the other boats were watching, worried to death that they were going to catch a rock or something because he was so close in. And Ian had the knowledge of where the rocks were, but Ian managed to get in there and get a good catch.
In the mid-90s, Graham's son Neil also joined the fishing business. With 2 trawlers fishing out of Brixham, a second fish shop in Ottery, and 3 boats still working off the beach at Sidmouth, the business Stan built from scratch was thriving. Then, out of the blue, in 1998, the day after Stan celebrated his 60th birthday, the family was hit hard by a terrible double blow.
I went down and seen him that morning at Brixham before he went, and he said, can you get me a bottle of milk? So I went and got a bottle of milk, and of course, then he steamed away. It was 2.5 hours steam up to the crab ground.
The first we knew there was anything wrong that day was I had a phone call at home. The Coast Guard had heard from the Marines that there was a boat come ashore at Budleigh Salterton. The boat had come in through the Marines firing range and beached on Budleigh. The engine was still running. Debbie got a phone call saying that Ian was not on the boat. And then there was a massive search started. I mean, they knew exactly where the boat had come in, everything on the boat, all the equipment had shown the track, the path that he'd taken to come in ashore. So they went straight back out. The Sidmouth lifeboat was out. All the local fishermen were out searching. People were walking along the beach. They were all walking beaches. I went with a friend of mine, walked around Ladram. But all the boats, Graham in particular, he was out searching all the time. And that was one of the biggest searches that they'd done in this area. You know, really, almost immediately. It isn't, you've always got hope. I mean, he'd got waterproofs on, he'd got his boots on, so the chances of him being able to survive in the sea in February for any length of time is quite minimal. So you know, you can search and search, but you know that it's not going to be a happy outcome.
Anyway, I rung him up about 12 o'clock and I couldn't get nobody, and I just collapsed on the office floor. I knew then.
Time and Coast Guard Agency. There are warnings of gales in Portland, Plymouth, Viking, Norfolk 0, Southland 0, 40s, Bronte, Fisher.
Yes, the storm blew up. And then we had a period of very bad weather, 36 hours after Ian had gone missing. So of course all the searches were called off. You never get over it. It's important to remember, but it's also teaches you to understand other people's suffering. There are so many mothers have lost sons and daughters. You understand.
Only 10 days after Ian went missing, the family faced another devastating shock.
Stan didn't communicate. He didn't communicate at all. And I think that's the thing I found hardest. He wasn't a great communicator anyway, but he just literally shut down. He had to start picking up the threads of life. So we persuaded Stan to go down to Exmouth with Graham to get the lobsters out. The boat was almost on the bottom of the quay because the tide had gone out and there was a 15-foot drop. Stan always checked the last person off the boat, always. That was the one thing he always did. And he just went straight over the quay onto Graham's boat, smashed his head on the handle of the hatchway. So the next thing I knew was that Graham's wife Janet was knocking on the door and saying Stan had an accident and we needed to go into the hospital. And she said to me, "You're going to take any clothes or anything down from?" I said, "No, don't be silly, Stan bounces, he'll be all right. Big tough guy, he doesn't get hurt." And how wrong was I? He was in intensive care for about 10 days. But he always insisted that he was going to get back, always insisted, "I'm going back to sea, I'm going back." But he never did, no. I was in a state of shock. I don't think I felt anything. I didn't know which way the family was going to go. I didn't know where our income was coming from. I didn't have a clue what the future held for us. But I knew Stan would need care. Kay was, by that time, was a single parent. She needed an income. She got 2 small boys to look after. And she knew she was going to have to keep going. She opened up the shop and she took the brunt of it. Lynn realised that she was going to have to support Kay, so she started going down the market and buying. It was a bit of out of her comfort zone, but she knew what she was buying. She stood her ground and they learnt to respect her.
While the Bagwell family tried to pull themselves back up off the floor and keep things going through the millennium and into the 21st century, life was changing on the seafront too. East Beach and the famous Red Cliffs were also taking a battering.
Well, on Eastern Beach we had a massive, great big beach. There were no rocks there, no rocks exposed, and the boats used to be pulled up on the beach. It's not just the beach, it's the cliffs have gone back dramatically, and it's all happened since 95, really. The rock groins went in about 93, and since then it's just gone one after the other. It's an amazing change. The beach probably has dropped about 10 to 15 feet.
I can remember going out of an evening with Mum and Dad and my brother and sister who used to do the sailing down here, which is catching the mackerel with the net. It was lovely. This was our beach and this is where we grew up, and it's all gone.
The tide and currents have all changed there, and it's taken all the shingle away. She used to be able to fish big boats, but most of the fishing boats can't fish from here. The 2 that work now, at the moment they're cuttling and then netting, then whiting in the winter. They've both got other jobs. They can't survive on just fishing. They struggle to get out off the beach.
Most of the commercial fishermen may have gone, but the sailors are still trying to push their boats off the same beach and having the same battles with the shingle and the waves. There's been a sailing club here on and off for over 100 years. When the first Sidmouth regatta started in 1860, the total purse was worth £50, a vast sum. So the fishermen decided to race the gentry. Used to trimming the sails of their luggers, they knew they were the best sailors in town. As the race continued, a heavy storm blew up and, not surprisingly, a fisherman won.
This is the shore. Can you say again your last?
Today, Sidmouth Sailing Club is out every Saturday in the summer months, racing or training youngsters. In 2009, the Sidmouth Gig Club joined the sailing boats out on the water, and the founder, needing more recruits, came knocking on the Bagwells' door.
Lynn, Kay and I were involved in the setup of the gig club. Lynn really took to it. Kay tried it and she loved it.
We don't have the boats anymore, and I think just being out on the sea. I mean, we grew up on the sea. I was hooked and wanted to race all the time.
The gig club also welcomes members of all ages, those who want to race and those who are happy to row for fun and don't mind getting wet. And with more and more bold Sidmouthians having fun out on the water, the Sidmouth inshore lifeboat is in increasing demand, with an average of 30 shouts a year.
When your pager goes, you have no idea what you're going to, and you get to go and help someone, whether it's a dog or a boat or a person. We're on call every day of the year, 365 days of the year, 24/7. Sidmouth lifeboat is an independent lifeboat. We're not part of the RNLI. All the independent lifeboats do the same job as the RNLI. We just don't have the funding from the headquarters. My name is Guy Russell, senior coxswain of Sidmouth Lifeboat. We are all volunteers. Lots of our crew are all different ages. We've got males and females from all walks of life.
My name's Andy Horsley, I'm a tractor driver. It is difficult at high tide launching the boat, especially when it's rough. So far I've never lost the boat off the back, but there's always a first time.
I'm Vicky and I predominantly drive the tractor, but I'm training to be boat crew as well. My little boy's 9 and he spends a lot of time in the sea, so whether it's paddle boarding or bodyboarding or just swimming, there's always someone about to rescue him, and you can't really live here and expect everyone else to be that someone. It's fun, everyone's got a good sense of humour.
My name's Martin Barnard. I'm a trainee crew on the lifeboat here. There's some really good training for radios, VHF, how to be on the sea safely, survival skills. So today we're doing a crew change, and I'm watching Lisa on the shore pointing to the direction of the boat so I know where to swim. So a few butterflies, hard work, hard swim, but once you get the first few waves crashing over your head and you're protected with the visor, you know, sort of confidence comes up, you know, you're fine.
All our shouts are memorable. One that springs to mind was last August, rescuing 2 young boys stranded on a rock stack about 2 miles west from Sidmouth in worsening sea conditions. They were very cold, and if we hadn't been there, I think the situation would have deteriorated very quickly, and it was a real honour to bring those 2 boys back to the lifeboat station and hand them back to their parents safe.
Meanwhile, Kay's boys, Ryan and Kieran, were growing up around the beach and the sea just like their mother did, and Ryan gradually entered the family business.
Well, I started from a really young age. My granddad, he took me out seine netting for the mackerel, and then went out on the boats, helping with the netting, and then worked my way into the shop. I have to be at the market at 6 when it starts. I like to get here a little bit early to just check what's on the market.
1 and 2 pollock, how much those? 260.
I used to come down to Brixton Fish Market with my auntie Lynn. She took me the first year and taught me how to buy, and then the last few years I've been doing it on my own. I usually buy off the day boats because I know they've just been out for the day, and I look for boats that I know are good quality skippers and they look after their fish.
On to the next boat, which is the Girl Deborah. £394, £4, £410, £410, £420, £420, £430, £430, £440, £40, £50, £440, £60, £60, £70, £460. That is Bagwell at £460. I got pound by Bagwell 110. Now the number 2 white tint, said you want that? It's 40. Yeah. I got 40 by Bagwell 50. Bagwell at 40.
There's 2 auctions going at the same time, so I'm split myself in half sometimes.
350.
60 for one.
65 Bagwell 70. Yeah. 1 the Bagwell.
I buy small quantities of fish, small boxes, usually mixed fish, what the customer needs and what they ask me for. I get special orders as well. Today I'm buying cod, brill, turbot, plaice, dabs, lemon sole and scallops. Special today I got some whiting roe. If the price drops on the market, I try and buy quite a bit so I can drop the price in the shop. What do you want?
Can I have some whiting, please?
I love my job, the variety, because I'm at the market and then working in the shop, seeing all the different customers. A lot of people my age buy their fish from the supermarket because it's already packaged and all ready to cook for them. We're trying to encourage more people my age to buy fish and eat it. And we show them how to prepare it. Mum does all the cooking. She cooks chowder, fish soup, fish pies, fish cakes, and she does the fish baps as well.
I started doing the fish baps because I wanted people to try it and taste it. Youngsters and older people, they just do not get it like this and it's ready to go. That's why Mum and I went into the schools to do the workshops so we could teach youngsters.
We went kayaking and caught loads of mackerel and then went down to a beach and cooked it on a barbecue.
And did you like it?
No.
They say, oh, I don't like fish. Well, a lot of them have never had what are called fresh fish. I mean, this is literally come out of the sea. Now you can try it because you said you don't like fish very much. She loves it, absolutely loves it. It's the quickest and easiest food to cook. It's your original fast food, basically. Mum and I got involved in Seafest because we wanted to get people involved with the fishing and to understand this was a fishing village.
The beauty of Seafest is it draws all the clubs together. We get everybody involved. We get the Jurassic paddles, the surf lifesaving, gig club, sailing club, inshore lifeboat, and they enjoy it. They enjoy being part of the community and drawing the community together.
3, 2, 1.
And they're all learning from each other. We're all passing on knowledge to the next generation.
I'm starting to do that this year, teaching the younger ones to become more competent in the water. And we're doing our lifeguarding award this year.
I love watching the Surf Lifesaving Club. The kids are having such a whale of a time down there. They're learning about the tide, they're learning about the strength of the sea. They don't even know they're learning, they're just having fun. We're a maritime nation, we need to know about the sea. It can be a dangerous place, it can be a wonderful place.
I surf a lot, so it means, you know, I can help people in the water if they're struggling.
If you mess it up, everyone kind of laughs with you. And it would just be nice if someone was in trouble that you'd know how to fix them and help them.
They might not be learning to go out on a boat, but by learning to go out on a bodyboard, they're using it as a friend.
For the joy and the love of the sea.
Yeah, it's just good fun.
Yeah,
it's just good fun.
It's great fun.
It's good to be out with friends, just doing what you like doing.
It's the best.
So I'd put it over anything.
Yeah, even in this weather.
It's got to have
I'll do it any day.
wetsuit.
Yeah!
One of my boys said to me, because I always used to think I was wrong by working all the time and this was their playground. Oh, I was always up and down looking for them because they used to wander across the seafront or go and see their friends. He said that we've had the best childhood we could have had. You couldn't have anything better. This was their playground and they loved it. So, you know, you can't take that away from them.
I love being out in the water. It's just peace, freedom. You can do what you want, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
Well, the sea's got so many moods. You know, you can be out there one day and it can be a little bit shuffly. There'll be a little bit of white horses breaking every so often. Then another day you could have a big swell and still breaking, and that's another story again. People have said to me, don't you ever get fed up with it? I said, no, every day's different. But I loved it even then, and I still love it. I've had a lot of adventures in my life, and I've been a very lucky man. Oh, we've had some fun, I'll tell you.